Hi everyone, my name is Zach Harrington and I'm a second year Master of Occupational Therapy student at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. And we are going to be talking about being a male in the field of occupational therapy. So this in-service is titled The BrOT Angle, Men in the Field of OT, because as you know, we call men in the field of occupational therapy BrOTs. So today our learning objectives are that learners will be able to identify the OT setting that males are more likely to work in. So really just looking at the most popular setting or the trends that you see that males work in. Second, that learners will be able to identify 1 to 3 reasons why males think that there are such few males in the field of OT. And third, that learners will be able to identify at least 1 to 3 reasons why being a male could make a current or future OT practitioner valuable in the field of occupational therapy. So my method for data collection was to form a Google survey, or also known as a Google form. I really just wanted to formulate a few questions that would give me insight and knowledge and experience behind what it was like for current or future male occupational therapy practitioners in the field. So I wanted to recruit not only occupational therapists, but also occupational therapy assistants to just really get their insight on what it's like to be a male in this field. And I wanted to include future practitioners as well, just because I felt like since they're on the road to being an occupational therapist, they could still provide insight on some of the questions that I were asking, which we will get into later. And I posted this survey in a Facebook group titled The Occupational Therapy Treatment Ideas and Information. And it holds about 47,000 group members. So I figured that this would be a feasible way for me to gather some male current or future practitioners to get some data for this. And I ended up receiving 118 responses, which this shattered my expectations. I was really only expecting to receive 25 to 50 responses, so I was very happy with the data that I was able to collect. So the first question that I asked was, what gender do you identify as? And I wanted to include this because I knew that because there were so many females in this group that they would probably be looking at this survey as well. So I wanted to ensure that the responses that I would be including for today's in-service would be from males only. So I ended up receiving 112 male responses, and I ended up receiving 6 female responses. So of course the female responses were not included as far as the information that I'm providing you with today. So one of the questions that I asked was, are you a student or a practitioner? And I asked that students please list the setting that they wish to work in, and that practitioners please list the setting that they currently work in. And I wanted to, again, include the students or future practitioners because that would still be a setting that they would be seeking one day. And so I was just trying to gain knowledge behind the trends that you tend to see for males in the field of occupational therapy and what setting that they're more likely to work in. And the most common responses that I received were surprisingly SNF, which also stands for skilled nursing facility, home health, and inpatient acute. So whether that be a hospital or an inpatient rehab. So this trend was actually pretty surprising to me, as I was not expecting to see a skilled nursing facility, but it definitely was the most common response. Our second question asked was, why do you think that there are such few practicing males in the field of occupational therapy? And I also wanted to include that only around 10% of practicing OTs are male in the field. And of course, we learned that in foundations last year when we first started school, which that number was pretty shocking to me because it is such a low number. The most common responses that I received were that males that took this believed that OT was considered a female role. We, of course, have societal norms as far as gender roles go, and we know that women are labeled as the caregivers, caretakers, and that men are labeled as, macho, manly men. They do the manly jobs. And so that was one of the most common responses that I received, which I definitely was expecting. The other most common responses were that there is a lack of awareness as far as males go. So that males have a lack of awareness of the field of occupational therapy, or maybe what occupational therapy can do for someone. Next was that our field requires creativity, critical thinking, and empathy. This was implying that males maybe don't have the most common ability to have creativity, critical thinking, or empathy, but that does not mean that they are not able to do so. It is just a trend that you typically see with this field, and what comes with those attributes typically are something that females tend to have. The other most common thing was that this considers a lot of intimacy as far as caregiving goes. So there's a lot of vulnerability behind being a receiver of occupational therapy services, of course, because it deals with our activities of daily living, which includes dressing, bathing, grooming, etc. And so a lot of those times you do have to, be nude, or you do have to be showing a vulnerable side of yourself. And of course, when you have a male provider providing for a female client, that could be an uncomfortable situation for some. And last, I saw most commonly that other professions are male dominated and strictly science based / black and white. And that is a trend that we tend to see as far as male roles go. And along with that response, I saw a lot where that they believe that males are seeking out positions such as physical therapy, dentistry, medicine, the other ones that you commonly see males practicing in. The next question I asked was, what makes you valuable as a current or future male occupational therapy practitioner? And my thought process behind asking this question is, in what way do we bring value to our clients? So not necessarily what makes you valuable as a person, but what do you bring to the table as a male that could benefit our current and future clients? And the most common responses that I saw were, of course, ADLs, because if you have a male who needs assistance with his ADLs, or his ability to participate in those occupations are impaired, a lot of times working with a female provider could be a little bit uncomfortable, and males might feel more comfortable if they had a male provider helping them with ADLs, and vice versa as far as females go with a female provider. Another common response that I saw was transfers. I saw a lot of times that males responded and said that they are expected to help with transfers, whether it be for heavier patients, patients who are maybe not cognitively able to use their body to help with the transfer. Whatever the circumstance may be, that was definitely a common response, that males were typically in charge of helping with the transfers in the setting that they worked in. The next one was a father figure, role model, or even being a leader. So especially looking at our school systems, a lot of the students in the school systems do not have a father figure, and they may not even have a role model. And the males responded and said that they believe that that's what they could be for their clients, not only in the school system, but in other settings as well. Next is a different perspective. So being a male, I saw that they believed, the males that filled out this survey believed that they brought a different perspective. This was definitely something that I saw over and over and over, that bringing this different perspective could really benefit our future clients, whether it be male or female. Everyone has a unique personality and has unique traits that they bring to the table for whatever field it may be, and they definitely used their different perspective to the advantage in filling out this survey. The next was, many feel as if gender does not have any difference in meaning towards bringing value to the field of OT, and that it comes from within. So this was probably, the least common response that I did see, but it was still something that I wanted to address, because some people really truly believe that if you have this natural instinct within you to be a caregiver, to be empathetic, to really be a part of these vulnerable situations with our clients, that it really doesn't matter what gender you are, just as long as you are putting forth your best effort to take care of your clients. They believe that it didn't have any type of meaning to what gender that you are. Next is, what made you want to go into the field of occupational therapy? So the most common response that I saw with this question was that they wanted to help people and increase individuals' quality of life. Next is exposure through family members or personal experience with receiving OT. So whether that be a sibling, a parent, a grandparent, whatever it may be, several people had been exposed to the field of occupational therapy. Therefore, they had knowledge behind the field, which sparked their interest to go into the field of occupational therapy. Next was that they had knowledge about healthcare careers and felt that OT was the best fit. So whether this be research on their own or just being introduced to it in some way, shape, or form, they felt that all of the other healthcare careers they were interested in, that OT was the best fit. And a lot of the comparison I saw was, of course, to physical therapy. I saw, well, they thought about going into physical therapy or they knew about physical therapy, but they really liked the nature and the holistic and creative sense behind OT, which is why they ended up pursuing it rather than another allied health profession field. And last, I saw that it was the jack of all trades. I wanted to include this quote because I personally like this and I agree with it. They said that this career was holistic, it was creative in nature, and that you were able to do a lot of different things. And that is one thing definitely about OT. It is not black and white. It is very, it is a very gray area, but that is a positive thing because that means we can adapt and we can really just do what is best for our clients, and that we don't have to follow a strict certain policy, because we know that with our future clients, there's not always going to be a strict way to do something, and not every client is going to have the same experience as our previous client. So that is also another common response that I saw in this survey, was that it was just very holistic and it was very creative, and there was a lot of things that you could do in this field. Next is, do you think that being a male in this field makes you a minority, highly demanded, or possibly even paid more? And I wanted to include this because I have seen these myths before. I have seen that being a male makes you highly demanded and that it could potentially even get you paid more. The most common responses that I saw were that, yes, the males believed that it made them a minority and highly demanded, but I did see a trend with no, that males did not think that they would be paid more just for being a male in this field. Some felt as if we were all equal and that we should be, regardless of our gender, in the field of OT. So many responded and said that they definitely would not want to make more as their female counterparts, and they did not think that they should, or that anyone else should either, and that we should all be equal on this playing field as far as being a minority and demanded, etc. goes. And last, I wanted to ask for them to feel free to share their experiences as being a male in the field of occupational therapy, whether that be positive or negative. I left the floor open for stories, advice, or insight, really anything that they wanted to include. A lot of positives that I saw were that males bring a different and unique perspective to the field, and that we stand out, and that males bring diversity to the field of occupational therapy. Some of the negatives that I saw were that many women do not feel comfortable around male practitioners for ADLs. They can feel lonely because they're around so many female counterparts and don't have that male connection, and that they feel discriminated against at times, meaning they feel as if they're automatically told, no, I don't want him as my practitioner because he's a male. I don't want him seeing me doing this, or I don't want him helping me with this. And some felt that that definitely was discrimination towards them. So my personal final thoughts are that I definitely saw a trend within this survey, and there was a lot of responses from males. And overall, it is a very intimate field. It requires a lot of empathy. It requires critical thinking, and it is a caregiving position. But I definitely think with more education and more exposure, and with more recruiting from current males to other males out there that are interested in healthcare, that we definitely could include more males in this field. It is definitely something that I enjoy, and that I think that any other male would enjoy as well. And I'm so glad and so grateful that I was able to do this survey and get the perspectives behind males, because also as a current student and as a future practitioner, I know that many of these aspects will be important to me as well. So thank you guys so much for watching.